We all know them by now, and he's doing the counterspells here this weekend.
It's going to be interesting to see between the two Simic builds which one comes out on top. Both players are exceptional. They are both 3-0, looking to get to that 5 and X wins to get through to the top 8 and to day number 3.
This is interesting here. Mengucci's kind of getting himself amped up a little bit with his ramp deck, but Paul felt that Mengucci was going to win this one because he's on a roll, and no one can argue that. I do think this matchup is pretty difficult for him, however, and the reason why is because Seth has a lot of interaction and a lot of counter spells. What Seth needs to do in this matchup, most importantly, is interact early and counter some of the ramp spells. This is where those main deck copies of Aether Gust are going to be pretty good. Quench will be good in certain spots, horrible in others, depending on how the game is going. The Sinister Sabotage, the Negate, and maybe most importantly, Frilled Mystic as a counterspell and something that can pressure the opponent. All of these cards can come together very nicely for Seth.
Let's take a look at this opening hand. There's no green mana, otherwise it would be pretty darn good indeed with Growth Spiral and Paradise Druid ramping up into Nissa Who Shakes the World. Some interaction, like you said, with Petty Theft and Sinister Sabotage, but he is going second, so is he considering keeping this and hoping to draw Forest? No. Right.
I like a mulligan.
Yeah, this is okay. I mean, it's not great, but...
It's a really good hand. His last hand was really good if you drew green, but I like a mulligan.
Yeah, Temple of Mystery can help you find some action. We got Growth Spiral to get another land down, ramp up, get to Nissa, hopefully find a little bit more action. Also Castle Vantress, which has proven to be pretty good this weekend. It seems to get blown up a lot by Casualties of War whenever the opportunity presents itself.
With good reason.
Yep. On the other side of the battlefield, we've got Leafkin Druid into Risen Reef with 2 Hydroid Crazies, so that's also not too shabby there for Andrea Mengucci, but let's get things underway. Breeding Pool tapped. Forest is the draw off the top for Seth Manfield. Temple of Mystery is going to scry, find a Breeding Pool, that's going to go straight to the back, and we are getting underway. Quasi-duplicate. Now, I haven't seen this go off yet. What's the best target for that? Risen Reef?
Risen Reef or Cavalier of Thorns.
Yeah.
Because you can do some pretty nutty stuff, if you really do get it going. I like Mengucci's hand here, makes a lot of sense. He's got a little bit of mana acceleration right now. Now, it is pretty important for him that his Risen Reef actually does resolve, because otherwise he doesn't have a ton going on here.
Yeah. Now, I like it not firing off the Growth Spiral just yet. Just faking a Quench, perhaps. Risen Reef is going to resolve, as it's just a Growth Spiral, but there's a negate to possibly target a Nissa Who Shakes the World. Yeah, Frilled Mystic off the top, though.
That's one of the cards Seth wanted to find. He wanted to find a 4-mana spell there, either Frilled Mystic, or Nightpack Ambusher, just something that costs 4 mana, and then he's got a 5-mana spell there in Nissa as well. And it's important to note that Nissa can team up with the Breeding Pool to cast a negate, but for now, Seth is just going to leave his mana up and get ready to counter something.
Yeah. Just throw it out there and be like, I don't care what you cost, I'm countering it. Oh, but it's a creature. Oh, fine. Frilled Mystic, though, is very, very good at countering anything. Here comes the Risen Reef. No. Okay. He's thinking about a Nightpack Ambusher, perhaps.
Yeah, this is the difficulty of playing against a Flash deck, where you're scared of Nightpack Ambusher among many other things. Now, this is actually pretty good for Seth here if he does want a Frilled Mystic this. But what's also a little bit interesting is, you can make an argument for a negate here and leaving Frilled Mystic in your hand. But what I like about this play is you get to use all of your mana. Yeah. You get to Mystic this. You get to untap Nissa. Actually have Mystical Dispute up as well in combination with negate and kind of move forward accordingly. So this is going very well here for Seth.
That's just rude. But this deck is rude. It aims to be rude, and it says, oh, you'd like to do a thing? No, thank you. I would like to do my things now and run away with the game. So that is what Seth Manfield's hoping to do. Nissa Who Shakes the World on the battlefield, bring that Breeding Pool to life, gonna swing for 6 points of damage, and importantly, keep up those 2 counter spells.
Yeah, he's got access to both counter spells right now. Risen Reef is the play. I think this is a pretty easy one to counter there with the Dispute. Seth knows that Andrea's missing mana, and Andrea's just gonna concede right now.
I actually appreciate this about Andrea Mengucci.
Yeah, me too.
Where a lot of players will just sit there and hang on and wait and wait. He's like, no, I'm not gonna expend any more mental energy on this game. It's lost, let's go to the next one.
Yeah, there's no coming back there. If Mythic Championship 5 taught us anything, is that when Nissa is getting going for a turn or two, the game ends very quickly. And oddly enough, we are in a Simic Mirror, something that you and I covered quite a bit of just a couple of months ago.
Oh, yes, indeed. Except it's slightly different and there's far less food. And the elk population has been culled. Except for this canvas transformation. I am curious about this card.
It looks like maybe 1 or 2 copies, a copy or 2 perhaps, is going to come in here for Seth as he's thinking about it. Looks like he only has 1 in the sideboard here, but looks like he's going to bring in that one of. Thinking about bringing in Hydroid Krasis, maybe some other things. He can get away from maybe a couple of counterspells, especially when he's on the draw, but he does have the ability to take the initiative back because of Growth Spiral and Paradise Druid. So some interesting options here for the former world champion.
You know, as much as I hate being countered, I really do love watching the best players in the world playing this kind of matchup against each other.
Well, what
Granted, Mengucci's not playing any counter spells,
yes,
really, but
what I love about this from a Seth Manfield side of things is you get to learn something every time he plays because he's so fantastic, but how he picks and chooses what he's going to counter and what he doesn't counter.
Yeah.
In that particular game, it was pretty straightforward. Frilled Mystic that, Mystic Dispute your Risen Reef. Okay, we're all done here because I have Nissa, but as the games get tougher and the decisions get tighter, it'll be interesting to see how Seth plays with these counter spells because he isn't really known as a player who plays a lot of counter magic.
No, he's not. But, you know, the best players in the world, they can pick up any deck and, you know, put up a good show with it. So he's just deliberating a little bit, making sure he's got the right combination of cards to go up against this rather frightening Simic Ramp deck from Andrea Mengucci, who's currently on the back foot. He's down a game, but do not count out the Mythic Invitational winner.
What's compelling here, too, from Seth's side of things is Seth is the one who really kind of made the breakthrough addition to this deck by adding Paradise Druid to it. Him, Brad Nelson, Javier Dominguez, and Brian Bronduin were testing this deck quite a bit, and Seth said, why don't we try ramping a little bit so we can play Nightpack Ambusher and Frilled Mystic a little bit earlier, and then all of a sudden they added more ramp elements to the deck, and now it's this weird amalgamation of counterspells and interaction and ramp and threats. And
blue-green good stuff.
it looks weird.
It does.
But it's working.
It's effective.
Yes.
So a little bit of an awkward start here, not finding a blue source. So we could go for the green and hope to draw another land, otherwise we've got 2 tap lands.
Yeah, he's got Castle Vantress in hand, which is not ideal. You know, he'd love to peel off an island or a breeding pool here. That would be probably his best draw step. Frilled Mystic is not ideal, so Seth is going to be a little slow out of the gate.
Yeah, for sure. Mengucci on the other side's looking pretty good so far. He's going to run out his Risen Reef, take a look at the top card of his library. And that's a Nissa who shakes the world in hand, so that's pretty good. No ramp, unfortunately, though, from the Risen Reef.
So while Seth does not have another land to play this turn, he does have plenty of interaction. He can play Paradise Druid, which I think is safe right now because he doesn't have to worry about Cavalier of Thorns or Nissa who shakes the world coming down this turn. So totally safe, and if he draws a land the next turn, he is in prime position to win this game.
Castle Garenbrig revealed off the top. That's going to go on the battlefield, and all of a sudden, Andrea Mengucci is on 5 lands. And Seth is still stuck on 2, unfortunately. Maybe he has to fire off his Growth Spiral and try and get lucky.
No, there's no rush here. No rush whatsoever. Seth is happy to just probably pass the turn back. Mystical Dispute means he can play 2 spells in 1 turn. If a green spell does come down, he is going to play a Growth Spiral, and he does have Dispute to defend himself a little bit, but I'm surprised that he felt the need to pull the trigger there. Because now something is almost assuredly going to resolve from Mengucci, some sort of 5-mana spell.
Yeah.
He knows he's clear for takeoff.
He's got 2 of them, and they're rather impactful indeed. Do we see a Nissa? I mean, can he... No, he can't go Nissa into Cavalier, can he? Okay, he can. I'm sure he can. Maybe?
Oh, Nissa into Cavalier is totally in play.
Oh, yeah.
Because the Breeding Pool's tapped for double green, he can use Nissa's plus and untap something.
Nice.
So if he wants to go, if he wants to double dip here, that's entirely possible.
We do like double dipping.
That's why I was a little surprised that Seth actually went for the Growth Spiral that turn, because he's left himself incredibly exposed, and Mystic Dispute's not going to counter many of the things that he's worried about because these are just 2 green spells. He's way too far behind now, probably.
Yeah, so now it's very much a reverse of the first game, where it was Seth Manfield with advantage aplenty and Nissa who shakes the world, you know, causing a few gray hairs on the other side of the battlefield. But yeah, Andrea Mengucci very, very much in control. There's the land finally for Seth Manfield.
Yeah,
He's too far behind now, though.
Yeah, Seth's play last turn was very high risk, high reward. If he hits the land and enters the battlefield untapped off the Growth Spiral, then he has Gust available and other options, and that's actually mana number 4 for Ambusher and Frilled Mystic, but he didn't hit, and now there are 2 5-mana green permanents on the battlefield that are really tough for him to beat.
Yes, indeed. You saw a little shake of the head there. He knows that he's not in the best position against Andrea Mengucci. Aether Gust in the upkeep is going to send back either Nissa or Cavalier, perhaps.
Worth noting, this is in the draw step after Andrea has drawn. So now that Andrea has already drawn his card for Temple of Mystery, he's still going to leave that Nissa on top as his draw step next turn.
Cool.
And he does have a Nissa in his hand that he can play, so he still has plenty of action.
Yeah. He does indeed. Manually tapping, he's going to get the 2nd copy of Nissa who shakes the world. Potentially on the battlefield, unless Seth decides to Aether Gust it back to hand, or back to the top of the library, or the bottom. Chances are we're going to see this go bottom.
Yeah, he's got to gust this one too. Now, Mengucci left the last one on top, and I think he's going to leave this one on top too,
Okay.
which doesn't come as that big of a surprise because right now his hand sucks.
Yeah.
So he can guarantee himself that his next 2 draw steps are threats that are good, and that's a good place to be in. Now, can he beat what's on the battlefield, Seth? Well, he's in some trouble. His hand is going to be forced here and actually having to interact when he doesn't want to.
So Nissa, who shakes the world off the top of the library, no surprise there. Does have the Temple of Mysteries to try and shore up his draws, but I don't think he really needs any more turns off this one very much.
Well, a good place to start is just by attacking.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to play Nissa pre-combat. Mengucci can say, I'm going to attack you for lethal right now.
Yeah.
And you need to interact with me, otherwise you're very close to dead and you'll lose your Paradise Druid. So now
Yeah.
here's Nightpack Ambusher. That's going to block a 3-3. Paradise Druid's going to jump in front of the 1-1. And so that means Cavalier of Thorns is going to come through. And Seth is going to fall down to 1.
Yeah.
Nissa will come down post-combat. Seth is ideally hoping that there's nothing too crazy after that Nissa.
Which
And it
we
doesn't
know.
look like there
Well,
is.
there's a Hydroid Crisis coming.
Well, that makes it bad news there.
Yeah, that's a bit of bad news bears there for Seth. Nissa, who shakes the world, bringing a land to life. There's another Nightpack Ambusher. So we could get some big doggos out of this at least.
All right, so Nightpack Ambusher, and then you make a token, and then you can play another Ambusher, so that gives you 3 blockers.
Yeah. 4 attackers. Well, Leafkin Druid, as cute as you are, you're not going to do any damage.
So we could see. So for Andrea's turn, he could fire up a land, attack with 2 lands and a Cavalier of Thorns. Okay, so Seth might get another turn out of this.
Yeah. Hydroid Crisis will probably be the follow-up in the second main phase. Draw a bunch of cards, gain a bunch of life.
Yeah, it's a great card to have in
Yeah.
the holster right now if you are a Mengucci.
It's insanely good. And doing that also clears the way, you know, no frilled Mystic to counter the Hydroid Crisis. But we're going to see a puppy jump in the way.
Yeah, this is the straightforward part right now
Yeah.
if you're Seth, which is deploy the Ambusher, grow your team, start doing some blocking.
Nice.
Easy enough.
Yeah. Good blocks. The token dies. Still at 1. Hydroid Crisis. Ooh, this is going to be rather enormous.
Yeah, so this was the yeah. So you see Seth's facial reaction right now of like, yeah, I'm in some trouble. If you had nothing, I could probably actually steal this game from you, but
Yep.
you have something,
Yep.
and something is a lot better than nothing.
So he
Yeah.
needs to deploy his own Crisis, but it's got trample, so that's not going to help.
He needs to.
He needs to find a Brazen Borrow or something.
Yeah,
and
he's
that's not it.
sideboarded out most of those.
Well, yeah, he's in a bit of a pickle.
Yep.
Right, move on to game number 3 between Andrea Mengucci and Seth Manfield. A game apiece.
That game's interesting there because if Mengucci doesn't have a Crisis that turn,
Yeah.
if he has no follow-up threat, Seth's battlefield is basically stabilized, and then he's got
Yeah.
a wall of counter spells,
Yeah.
and he's probably a favorite to win that game. But Mengucci had one more spell, and maybe the best one he could have had there in Hydroid Crisis, and he runs away with it. Game 3?
Yeah.
A good place to be.
Yeah, game 3's good. I'm curious, if he hadn't blocked with the Paradise Druid on the 1/1 and blocked the 5 points of damage, would he had more health to play with, more life total?
Yeah, but I think in that instance, I don't think that maximizes winning the game.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
All right, so sideboard time again, taking a look at Seth Manfield's decisions. Any changes here as being on the play as opposed to being on the draw?
Some, but I don't think a ton. I mean, Brazen Borrow is not that great in this matchup. I don't think he wants to have too many counters, excuse me. You know, if he wants to slide in, maybe do some reversals of counter spells, I think, but I don't think he wants to overload on them.
Yeah.
I think he wants to still be able to interact enough if something does resolve, which is why he has those gusts in his deck. And we saw those were actually good at catching him back up in that last game. But I think his configuration makes a lot of sense. And being on the play, especially when you're a flash deck like he is, and he has some minor ramp elements like that growth spiral, this is an easy keep.
Oh yeah, this looks great.
And this hand looks fantastic.
I love it. Equally so on the other side, that's not that bad either.
Yeah, Mengucci's hand is actually quite good. Grazer's a beautiful place to start, which means he can actually take the initiative back as far as the play draw is concerned, because now he's ahead on mana. But also, he has a Mystic Dispute to fight Seth with when it's time to resolve a big spell.
Oh yes. So we're gonna see a battle of the counter spells here, but first things first, Growth Spiral is gonna find a breeding pool at the top of the library. So, both chasing each other in terms of ramp.
Yeah, Seth with the Growth Spiral, he's all tapped out, shields are down. There's not a ton that Andrea can do to take advantage of this, but for now, a little Risen Reef action isn't so bad.
Finds an island off the top.
So my biggest concern right now for Andrea as we head back Seth's way is he has no payoff threat. He's got Mystical Dispute, Growth Spiral, 2 breeding pools, but he has no Cavalier of Thorns or Nissa or anything awesome to do.
All right, so there's another Risen Reef off the top, also Growth Spiral. Looks like he's just going to swing in for the 1 point of damage. Do we see a Nightpack Ambusher fired off here into 4 open mana?
mean, we're talking about a tournament where there are open deck lists, so Seth knows that Andrea has some access to counter magic throughout his 75. Mystical Dispute coming into this matchup would not surprise Seth at all. And I think it's good to start interacting here if you are Seth. And the reason for that is because as Night Pack Ambusher is going to be countered, and Seth knew that was something that could happen, if Seth draws a land and deploys Nissa, he's in great shape.
I love that. Not firing off the Growth Spiral just yet. Faking another counter spell, perhaps. And now Seth's got some decisions to make.
Yes, and that's part of the power of Growth Spiral. It being an instant gives you a little bit of flexibility when you do play it. But again, so Seth has obviously some concerns about some counter magic that Andrea could have access to in this position, and Andrea hasn't done very much yet, so it stands to reason that Andrea's hand is reactive. However, the spot is not going to get much better for Seth to try to resolve Anissa, but he may just end up waiting here. And I know Andrea is certainly hoping that he does.
Yeah, because every time you wait, or every turn you wait, is one extra chance to draw a counter spell at the top of the library. And I bet that's what Andrea is hoping for. He's just like, please, no big thing I can't deal with.
Now, this is also pretty nice, too, if you are Seth, because you're still leaving up a wall of counter magic. You're leaving up a wall of interaction. Night Pack Ambusher, Growth Spiral, Sinister Sabotage. You have things to do.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're passing the turn back and it's like, oh, I have nothing to do. No, you still got options. You can still interact with your opponent, so that's okay. So Seth feels like he can pick a better spot to play and deploy the Nissa. And who am I to argue?
I do just want to mention that Andrea's only got the one negate in the sideboard, so the chances of him actually having it, very, very low. But still, you respect the open mana. Here comes a Risen Reef. Are we going to see a Sinister Sabotage? Indeed we are. So no extra looks at the top of your library, but that opens up the way then for the Growth Spiral for Andrea. Going to draw a card and play another land if he finds one. Growth Spiral response from Seth, perhaps?
Potentially. Part of the reason also that Seth was a little concerned, Hydroid Krasis is a great find right now.
Oh, yeah.
Part of the reason that Seth was a little concerned last turn, too, is because Mengucci has 4 copies of Aether Gust in his sideboard as well. So gusting away the Nissa and then Andrea playing his own Nissa would have been a disaster for Seth. So again, Seth felt like he could find a better spot for Nissa. We'll see as this game unfolds if he's actually able to do that.
Oh, Frilled Mystic off the top. That's a very, very good find indeed. So that can shut off any, just stop a Finale or a Hydroid Krasis dead in its tracks. If he wants to, Temple of Mystery will be the land for turn. Help him find something good off the top of the library, perhaps.
Temple Mystery,
interesting.
It's not a bad place to start for the turn. So he's going to start there with the Scry. Island's going to predictably go to the bottom. He doesn't need any more lands right now. Again, the big question right now is, does he want to try to deploy Nissa? It looks like the answer continues to be no.
There's the Aether Gust you mentioned.
Gust is, I don't want to say late, because I still think it's going to be good.
Yeah, it still has very many things to hit, so.
And this is the kind of spell, this is one of many reasons Hydroid Krasis is so good, because you get to do this. You're going to get your cards in your life regardless of what happens.
Yeah.
And then if the creature resolves, even better for you. And so now Seth has to think about, obviously, the ramifications of what Hydroid Krasis brings to the table here, why Mengucci might be taking a drink here. Doesn't have to worry about too much.
So Frilled Mystic will counter the Hydroid Krasis, but like you mentioned, the triggers still resolve. Gaining the 2 life, drawing the 2 cards. That's a Forest and a Mystical Dispute off the top of the library. There's a Breeding Pool for Seth.
Window's wide open now for Nissa.
Oh, yeah. Let's go. Let's shake some worlds, Seth.
And what's really, really nice about this, if you're Seth, you're going to count your mana. The window is open for Nissa plus Night Pack Ambusher in the same turn, so he's going to manually tap this and leave Breeding Pool untapped. Gets the opportunity to deploy Nissa, untap a land. We'll see if he wants to go with basic Forest or Breeding Pool. Looks like he's going to go to Breeding Pool. Get some attacks here. No good blocks here from Mengucci, given how power and toughness lines up. And now Seth, it's advantage Seth, it feels like at least a little bit here.
Yeah. Ooh, Shifting Ceratops. That's a fun card.
A little bit interesting one there. It's a card with a high ceiling and a low floor. There are going to be times where it's very good, times where it's really, really bad, because this is not a matchup where its protection from blue is unbeatable. It is very much blockable. You see Night Pack Ambusher, the creatures it makes, so on and so forth. So it's good. Not the end of the world.
Aether Gust is going to deal with the Nissa on the battlefield, send it back to the top or bottom of the library. I wonder if we'll see a Night Pack Ambusher here. Yeah, you might as well try. Mystical Dispute is, of course, in hand. We see it's there. So that'll counter the Puppy Dog?
Potentially.
Potentially.
The problem here for Mengucci is that he doesn't know where the Nissa's going to go.
Yeah.
So if he knew Nissa was going to go to the bottom, then disputing this is easy.
Yeah.
But if Nissa stays at the top, you'd probably rather have the dispute to counter the Nissa. But now Mengucci has to count the mana of how much mana does Seth have. And so he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the breeding pool that he has in his hand, which Mengucci doesn't know about, would be 7. So Seth wouldn't be able to pay for the mystical dispute. So a little bit of gamesmanship between the two players. Seth actually holding that land. Really, really smart stuff there from him.
So we will see the Nightpack Ambusher countered. There we go. So no 4/4 on the battlefield for Seth. Nissa, who shakes the world, will go to the top of the library.
He's got to put it on top since he has no action in his hand.
And surprise, surprise, there's a Nissa who shakes the world. But again, he's delivering some good beatdowns here with these lands and with the Frilled Mystic. So you got to think he's very much in a commanding position at this moment.
I like his positioning right now. The ability to untap and make another land here.
I like that.
Beatdowns.
I like that. He's faking a counterspell. This is
That's totally fair.
That's so cheeky. I love it.
Totally fair. That's a real. You're not going to get anything by him. So setting all the stops.
You could say he's pulling out all the stops, and he certainly did. Temple of Mystery is the draw there for Andrea Mengucci. He's got a Finale of Devastation. What could he find with that? It's not in Big Pig territory just yet. That's not going to help us.
We're not in End-Race Forerunners territory right now. Mengucci's got some thinking to do about what he can do to get himself out of what is a pretty sticky situation.
Yeah.
Nissa continues to dominate green mirrors. There's no Okos, there's no Once Upon a Times and other things that we were dealing with in Mythic Championship 5, but one thing has remained the same, is that Nissa on a battlefield in a green mirror is incredibly, incredibly potent, and it's doing it once again.
Indeed. Here we go. Finale Devastation equals 5. What are we going for? Cavalier?
Might be Cavalier time.
Yep, there we go. Okay. Cavalier of Thorns. Gonna find a card off the top of the library along with the Risen Reef trigger. So extra cards going into the bin. Finding Castle Vantress. That's pretty good. That'll help him shore up his draws for the next turn if he gets a next turn.
He needs a Crisis.
He does.
Top card goes to the bottom with the Scry from the Temple. He really needs a Crisis.
It's going to take a few points of damage with this next attack. That is an island off the top for Seth, not what he wants to see.
That was pretty big. That was pretty. So that's a miss there for Seth. Not what he wants to see, as you mentioned. That's good news for Andrea, even though he doesn't know it. Andrea at this stage of things can't play around a counterspell anymore.
No.
He can't beat a Frilled Mystic. He can blah blah blah. He can't beat any of them. So he's just going to play his spells. And for Seth, even though he tried to bluff a counterspell last turn, Andrea just said, "I'm still going to finale for X and hope that it resolves." And he has to hope everything resolves.
Yeah.
So Seth is going to untap his breeding pool with his Nissa. He's going to serve him with everybody. He's only going to lose one creature in the exchange.
Yeah.
And he's going to knock Mengucci down to 2.
Yep.
My question is there a way for Mengucci to actually come back this game outside of Crisis?
I think it's got to be Crisis, and it's Crisis. Well, there you go. You called it. You willed it into existence. There it is. So he's going to gain a bunch of life, draw a bunch of cards, and hopefully find an answer to keep himself in this match against Seth Manfield. It is getting mighty close here for Andrea Mengucci.
Really nice 2 here. Ooh. Andrea's got to figure out how he wants to tap because he wants to go through Castle Garenbrig.
Yeah.
Because that's going to generate him a little bit more mana and how much life can he gain. So right now he's going to have 2 blockers to 4 attackers. So he needs to get himself up to 7 in order for this to work. Now he also has to weigh himself in the equation of if he can afford to attack and how much mana he needs to leave available for what he draws with Crisis, because I think he needs to find an additional blocker to stay alive.
I think he can get up to a 9/9 if he just taps out entirely, but that just leaves him dead.
Correct. And so that's the math that he's doing right now.
So here we go. X equals 6. 3 life, 3 cards.
Okay.
What are they?
And he hasn't, let me see, he's got 3 untapped mana, so he hasn't played a land yet this turn. Okay.
Oh, okay,
so,
Risen Reef, that's good.
So Risen Reef should play here with regards to another blocker.
Yeah.
He's up to 5, 1 creature gets through. So again, he's done playing around counter magic. He'll play the Risen Reef. He's drawn another copy of Hydroid Crisis, which means that if he makes it to his next turn, he's probably in really good shape, and Nissa is not going to ultimate this turn. Forest is going to join the battlefield. So Seth needs to draw something right now.
Oh, yes. No lands off the top. Let's go, Seth Manfield.
Just
What
is
do you
his best
find?
draw. That is not it.
Temple of Mystery. Can Scry help him find something? But something needs to happen very quickly, or Andrea Mengucci is going to turn the tables on him right now.
The perfect top deck for Mengucci last turn in Hydroid Krasis. He played it beautifully with the amount of mana that he needed to tap
He also
to make
found
sure.
a spare.
Oh yeah, no, I mean that part's beautiful as well. But he left enough mana that if he drew something he could deploy, he could still stay alive. Seth can attack this turn, but it would be a bad attack to the point where I think he may just plus Nissa and not attack at all.
Yeah. I mean, he's just running into these massive 6 toughness creatures, so like, please don't.
Basically, if he attacks
Think
with
of
all
the
of
lands.
if he attacks with all of the creatures, he's going to lose 2 of them.
Yeah.
He'll get 3 damage across, and that's not, and now we're going to get another big jellyfish.
All right.
Mengucci is breathing a sigh of
Woo-wee.
relief now.
Well, you know, in terms of top decks, Hydro Krasis is a pretty good thing to find off the top of your library. Kept him alive, found the Risen Reef, and now we have a match on our hands.
And this is another situation where Mengucci does not need to play around counter magic. He can't really do so anyway.
Yeah.
Looks like he's got 12 mana, so that's going to be a huge Hydroid Krasis as far as the numbers are concerned. So
Hello,
X
10-10.
equals 10.
That's a pretty big fishy.
And the beautiful thing here for Mengucci as well
Look at all these lovely cards.
is that he can convert and get this game over with in basically 2 attack steps.
Yep, because there is nothing with reach on Seth Manfield's side of the battlefield. Oh, what a timeliest draw for Andrea Mengucci. Hydro Krasis swinging in at Nissa, making sure she doesn't get to ultimate. He's safe from an attack from all the creatures. His life total is padded enough to the point that he doesn't have to worry about that now, and he can become the beatdown. Mystical
And
Dispute off the top's not going to do anything.
A little late to the party. That's the problem with counterspells sometimes. When you're ahead, they're amazing, and when you're behind, they are absolutely horrible.
Oh, yeah.
So Seth is going to plus this Nissa, make another creature, but he is sitting at 10. Mengucci's got 3 blockers. That means 2 attackers would get through. Mengucci would fall down to 4. But last I checked, correct me if I'm wrong, 4 is not 0?
No.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure.
And now Seth Manfield is just going, you know what, I'm going out swinging, sending the entire team in, blocking, as he should, because, you know, there's no combat tricks, there's no Titanic growths or anything silly like that, so gonna get through for 3 points of damage, goes down, 6 points of damage, goes down to 4. And things are looking very, very good here for Andrea Mengucci. Just don't leave yourself vulnerable to a swing back or crack back.
Yeah,
and
that's the
you're
only
good.
thing that Mengucci needs to worry about here.
Yeah.
Is just make sure you don't lose to something foolish that you shouldn't be losing
Yeah.
to. Again, Mengucci's done a really nice job of assessing the situation in this game and saying, I can't beat a counter spell, so I'm not even going to play around anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do my thing, cast my spells. Now, this is a turn where because he's so far ahead and he's just trying to figure out how to win the game, where he can actually think about counter magic.
Yeah.
Seth has 1 spell in hand, so if you're Andrea, you just have to think that, okay, maybe one of my spells gets countered this turn. Cavalier of Thorns, are you going to counter this? No, this resolves. Let's move forward with this spell.
He's also got so much mana left, he can just pay for it anyway. So, you know, he's got to wait. He's got to sequence it. So, you know, put the least important spell at the end, so that if you do have to pay for it, it's fine if you lose it, right?
Now, again, you know, he'll think about Frilled Mystic, he'll think about Aether Gust, he'll think about Mystical Dispute and how those work themselves into the equation.
Yeah.
But most importantly is he knows he's at 4
Yeah.
and needs to make sure that it doesn't go to 0. That's it. I mean, so far, he could even do something as inconsequential as, like, no attacks, I want to make sure that I'm super safe. I don't think that's going to happen, but that's a way that he could elect to play the turn if he wanted to. Looks like he's just going to deploy a ton of stuff this turn.
Just throw your entire hand onto the battlefield and figure out where the cards lie after that. Hydro Krasis, number 1 and 2, swinging in, 10 points of damage to face, 6 to finish off the Nissa.
I like this attack. He's playing a little bit conservative. He could have gotten a little frisky with that, that Cavalier of Thorns if he wanted to, but there's no reason to, because he knows the deck that he's up against and the fact that Seth cannot come back from this situation. He's going to concede the game, and it's another huge victory.
What a comeback there from Andrea Mengucci, finding that Hydro Krasis exactly when he needed it, and unfortunately for Seth, not finding anything useful at all.
There were a couple of draw steps there for Seth where he just needed one more counterspell, one more something to win the game, but Mengucci had the top deck. He's the one that had to find the perfect card, and he did in Hydroid Krasis. Again, he played it beautifully, tapping enough mana so that if he drew a specific card, he could also play that, survive that turn, play another Hydroid Krasis the following turn, and that's why he is the winner of this match.
Yes, and that is why he is one of the best players at the moment. So take note when you're watching these